Far away in the silent darkness of space, humans were moving with hope. They were not hunters. They were dreamers. For years they had sent ships across the stars, searching for new places to live, new resources, and new friends. The colonies grew, shining like small lights in the endless night. People thought the galaxy would welcome them. They believed they were safe. But safety never lasts forever. One night, without any warning, the first attack came. It was sudden and brutal. Alien ships appeared near the outer colonies. No message. No demand. No chance to talk. The aliens came like shadows with fire in their hands. They cut through human defenses like a knife through glass. The sky over the colonies turned red. Families screamed as cities burned. Within hours, the once peaceful colonies became fields of ashes. Humans had never seen anything like these enemies. They were tall and armored, with eyes that glowed like cold fire. Their weapons were beyond human science. They moved with perfect coordination, like predators that had hunted for thousands of years. To them, humans were not people. They were prey. In the first weeks, millions vanished. Ships full of refugees were destroyed before they could escape. The aliens chased them down, as if enjoying the hunt. Humans hid, but hiding was useless. Every corner of the outer rim became a hunting ground. Fear spread faster than light. But in the middle of fear, some survivors noticed something strange. The aliens did not always kill. Some humans were captured and taken away. No one knew why. Whispers grew. Were the aliens studying them? Were they feeding on them? Or were they keeping trophies, like hunters keeping the heads of their prey? No answer came, only silence and more blood. Across the remaining colonies, panic began to grow. People begged for help from Earth, but Earth was far. Messages took weeks to travel. By the time answers came, it was already too late for many. The aliens kept moving, system by system, planet by planet, like wolves chasing sheep. At first, humans tried to fight back. Fleets of warships rushed to defend the colonies, but every battle ended in disaster. Alien weapons tore through human ships with ease. Soldiers fought bravely, but bravery meant nothing against hunters who had no fear. In the end, human ships were nothing more than burning wrecks drifting in space. The galaxy had turned cold for humanity. Every star that once looked peaceful now looked dangerous. Every shadow could hide death. And yet, deep inside this nightmare, something began to change. Humans were not only prey, they were survivors of countless struggles back on Earth. They had faced storms, wild beasts, and wars against each other. They had fallen many times in history, but they had always risen again. This truth was not forgotten. It lived quietly in the hearts of the survivors. In one small hidden base, a group of men and women gathered. Some were soldiers, some were scientists, and some were simple farmers who had lost everything. They were tired, broken, and angry. Among them was Captain Elias, a veteran of old wars. He stood in front of the group, his face marked by scars, his voice heavy but steady. He said only one line, but it carried a weight greater than any weapon. If they hunt us, then we hunt them. The word spread like fire. People who had been hopeless began to feel a spark inside them. The aliens thought humans were weak. They thought humans would run forever. But they had forgotten one thing. Humans had always been hunters too. They had hunted animals for survival. They had hunted each other in wars. And now they would learn to hunt again. It was only the beginning. The humans were broken, yes. They were wounded, yes. But prey had teeth. Prey could fight back. The galaxy would soon learn that the children of Earth were not easy to kill. The night of fear was not over. More blood would be shed. More cities would burn. But something had changed forever. The hunted were becoming restless. The hunted were learning. The hunted were preparing, and when the time came, the hunters would discover the most dangerous truth in the galaxy. Humans never stayed prey for long. The first attacks left scars across the human colonies. Worlds once filled with laughter now stood silent. Cities turned into graveyards, and skies that once carried trade ships now carried only smoke. But among the ruins, survivors refused to surrender. The aliens had taken much, but they had not taken human spirit, hidden deep inside abandoned tunnels, broken stations, and ruined forests. Groups of survivors gathered. They were not soldiers, not all of them. Some were miners, some were engineers, and some were simple parents who had lost everything. They were weak, but they were alive. And being alive meant one thing: hope was still possible. Captain Elias, the old war veteran, moved among them. His words had already sparked fire in broken hearts. Now he turned that spark into something stronger. "If they hunt us," he had said, "then we hunt them." It was no longer just a sentence. It was becoming a plan. The survivors began to watch the aliens. They studied them quietly, hiding in shadows. They learned how their ships landed, how their soldiers moved, how their weapons fired. Every detail mattered. Humans had always survived by learning, and now they were learning again. At first, their attempts were small. A group of farmers used mining explosives to destroy an alien patrol ship on the ground. A team of engineers hacked into abandoned satellites and used them to confuse alien scanners. These were not big victories, but they were victories. For the first time, humans saw that the hunters could bleed. The aliens were powerful, but they were not perfect. Their weapons were advanced, but they were arrogant. They believed humans were nothing more than weak animals, running without resistance. They did not expect tricks. They did not expect traps. Each small success gave the survivors courage. Slowly, humans began to turn fear into anger and anger into strategy. They remembered old hunting methods from Earth's history. They remembered how their ancestors had set traps for lions, wolves, and even larger beasts. Now those lessons were reborn in the stars. One group of survivors on a frozen colony set a clever ambush. They lured an alien patrol into the ice canyons, then triggered a landslide that buried the enemy under tons of frozen rock. Another group used old cargo ships, stripped of weapons, and turned them into floating bombs. They sent one into the path of an alien supply convoy. The explosion lit up the night sky, and for the first time, hunters looked uncertain. News of these small victories spread like whispers. Across the hidden camps, people repeated the stories. A child who had lost her family smiled when she heard that humans had destroyed an alien ship. A soldier who had been ready to give up decided to fight one more day. Each story grew like a flame in the darkness, but with every step forward came danger. The aliens grew more aggressive. They burned whole settlements just to send a warning. They captured more prisoners, perhaps to punish the rebels, perhaps for something far darker. No one knew what fate awaited those taken. And yet, even as fear returned, so did determination. Captain Elias gathered his team one night inside a ruined station. The room was cold, the air filled with the smell of smoke. Around him stood soldiers, engineers, and survivors from different worlds. They had nothing in common except pain and rage. Elias looked at them and spoke calmly. "They believe we are weak. They believe we will run forever. But every day we are proving them wrong. We don't have stronger ships. We don't have stronger weapons. But we have something they cannot understand. We have the will to fight, even when everything is lost. That is what makes us dangerous." The group listened in silence. Some clenched their fists. Others lowered their heads, hiding tears. But all of them felt the same truth. The hunters had made one mistake. They had shown humanity what it felt like to be prey. And now the prey was ready to change the game. That night, plans were made. Secret signals were agreed upon. Hidden bases began to produce traps, weapons, and codes. The humans were not ready for full war yet, but they had taken the first step. The shadows of resistance were rising. The aliens had no idea. To them, humanity was still weak and broken. To them, victory was already decided. But in the quiet corners of ruined worlds, something new was being born. A force built not from strength, but from survival. The hunters did not know it yet. But the hunt was about to turn. The galaxy was still dangerous for humans. The aliens controlled the skies, the trade routes, and the colonies. They had more ships, stronger weapons, and endless confidence. But something inside humanity had shifted. They were no longer running in fear. They were watching, waiting, and learning. Every attack, every defeat, every loss taught humans a lesson. They began to understand the enemy. The aliens fought with raw power, but they did not know patience. They were hunters who expected their prey to panic. Humans refused to panic anymore. Instead, they studied the hunters as hunters themselves in one ruined mining colony. A small group of survivors prepared their first true trap. They knew an alien patrol ship always came at the same time each night, scanning the area for signs of life. The humans hid inside the abandoned tunnels, placing old explosives deep under the ground. When the alien patrol landed, they triggered the charges. The earth shook, the ship fell, and fire swallowed the hunters. For the first time, the humans did not just survive, they struck back with purpose. Word of this success traveled fast. Other groups copied the idea, setting ambushes in forests, deserts, and even space wreckage. The aliens had the power of technology, but humans had the power of creativity. They learned to use the environment as a weapon. One strike team led by Captain Elias lured an alien ship into an asteroid field. They pretended to be a group of refugees sending distress signals. The alien ship rushed in to capture them, not realizing the trap. The humans guided the enemy through narrow tunnels of rock until it was too late. With a single push of a button, hidden thrusters moved giant asteroids into the aliens' path. The ship was crushed, its wreckage drifting silently among the stones. Every victory was still small, but it carried meaning. The aliens began to notice that humans were not acting like simple prey anymore. Patrols grew nervous. Commanders shouted louder. They started making mistakes. Scientists among the survivors studied pieces of alien tech, collected from broken ships. At first, they understood little, but day by day they unlocked weaknesses. They discovered that alien armor was strong from the front, but weaker at the joints. They learned that alien communication could be disrupted with simple human signals. Knowledge became a weapon sharper than any blade. For the first time since the invasion, humans felt the rush of the hunt. Fear had not left them, but fear had turned into focus. Soldiers who had lost everything now felt alive again when planning ambushes. Farmers who had once used traps for animals now used those same skills against alien squads. Humanity's oldest instincts were returning. Instincts written into their very blood, the instincts of hunters. But the fight was never without cost. Every trap, every ambush carried risk. Some groups succeeded. Others were discovered and wiped out. Entire camps were burned when the aliens suspected rebellion. Yet for every human life lost, 10 more were ready to rise. The hunted were turning into predators, and predators never gave up. One night, Captain Elias and his closest fighters sat around a flickering fire in a hidden cave. The air was cold, the silence heavy. One of the younger fighters, a boy no older than 19, asked him, "Do you think we can really win?" Elias looked at the boy, his scarred face lit by firelight. He did not lie. "Not today," he said. "Not tomorrow. But every time we strike, every time we fight, we remind them that we are not weak. That is how we win. Little by little, until they fear us." Fear was beginning to grow. Reports whispered through alien ranks. Ships destroyed. Patrols missing. Convoys ambushed. The hunters could not understand it. How could such a fragile species fight back? How could prey bite back with such force? The answer was simple. Humans had learned. They had adapted. They had become hunters again, in the dark corners of the galaxy. Where human survivors sharpened their weapons and planned their next strikes, one truth was spreading like wildfire. The age of fear was ending. The age of the hunt had begun. The resistance was growing. Across the ruins of human colonies, whispers of hope spread like fire. For the first time, the hunters had suffered real wounds. Patrol ships vanished, convoys were destroyed, and alien commanders began to realize the truth. The humans were no longer running. They were no longer hiding. They were learning to fight. But the aliens were not blind. They saw the change and decided to crush it. A massive fleet was sent to silence the humans once and for all. Dozens of warships filled the stars, their engines burning red. They moved like a storm across the black sky, hunting for the survivors who dared to resist. The message was clear: no rebellion would be allowed to live. When news of this fleet reached the humans, fear returned. Some wanted to scatter and run to new hiding places. Others argued they could never win against such power. But Captain Elias stood firm. His voice cut through the fear like a blade. If we run now, they will chase us forever. If we fight here, we have a chance. This is where we turn the tables. The humans began to prepare the largest trap they had ever built. They chose a dead star system, a place filled with broken ships and ancient wreckage. For years, battles between alien empires had left this system a graveyard. Now, the survivors turned it into a weapon. Hidden mines were placed among the wreckage. Old satellites were reprogrammed to send false signals. Small strike teams waited inside hollowed asteroids, ready to strike at the perfect moment. Every detail was planned. Every risk was accepted. Humanity would make its stand here. The day came quickly. The alien fleet arrived, filling the system with their war machines. They believed it would be an easy hunt. They thought humans would hide as always. Instead, they walked straight into the trap. The first move was silence. The aliens scanned the system but found nothing but empty wrecks. Confused, they moved deeper. Then the trap was sprung. Explosions ripped through the battlefield. Mines hidden in the wreckage tore into alien ships. Old satellites overloaded, sending waves of static that blinded alien sensors. From the shadows of asteroids, human fighters launched their attack. Small, fast, and desperate, they struck the larger ships with precision. Chaos spread. Alien commanders shouted orders, but the battlefield was no longer theirs. Fire and smoke filled the void as ship after ship fell. The hunters were trapped in the very graveyard they had mocked. Captain Elias led the charge in a stolen alien vessel. Disguised until the last second, his ship fired straight into the heart of the enemy formation, destroying their command cruiser. For the first time, alien voices screamed in panic. The humans fought like predators who had waited too long to strike. Every shot, every move, carried fury and purpose. They had no stronger weapons, but they had stronger will. And willpower turned the battlefield against the hunters. When the battle finally ended, silence returned to the dead system. The wreckage of alien ships floated among the stars, burning slowly. Humanity had not destroyed the entire fleet, but they had done the impossible. They had survived. They had fought. And they had won. The survivors gathered in their hidden base to watch the signals. Across the galaxy, news spread fast. Aliens who once laughed at humans now whispered about them with unease. For the first time, fear had appeared in the enemy's eyes. Captain Elias stood before his people, tired but unbroken. His words were simple. This is only the beginning. They thought we were prey. Today, we showed them the truth. We are hunters too. The victory did not end the war. More battles would come. More blood would be spilled. But the turning point had arrived. Humanity had proven it could fight, and once the hunters felt fear, the game of survival had changed forever. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The graveyard battle had changed everything. For the first time, alien hunters had tasted defeat. They had walked into the trap with arrogance, and they had left it with fire and fear. Their ships had been destroyed. Their commanders had fallen. And the whispers of their failure spread across the stars. Among the humans, hope grew stronger. Survivors who once lived in silence now spoke with pride. They told stories of the dead system, of how a small group of humans had faced the great hunters and made them bleed. Children repeated those stories in the shadows of ruined homes. Soldiers carried them like weapons, believing that the impossible was now possible. But the greatest change was not among humans. It was among the hunters. The aliens, who once saw humans as weak prey, began to feel something new out. Patrols no longer moved with ease, commanders argued. Rumors filled their ranks. They whispered of humans who could turn wreckage into traps, who could strike from anywhere, who could vanish like ghosts into the dark. Fear had entered their hearts. And fear is a weapon sharper than any blade. In one alien council chamber, leaders gathered to speak of the threat. Their voices echoed with anger, but also with unease. "They are nothing but a fragile race," one commander said. "They should not resist us," another answered. "And yet they resist. Every day they strike. Every day they grow stronger. Perhaps they are not as fragile as we believed." The hunters did not want to admit it, but the truth was clear. Humans were different. They were not the strongest species, nor the fastest, nor the most advanced. But they had something rare. They refused to break. And that refusal made them dangerous. Across the colonies, resistance grew bolder. Strike teams moved deeper into alien-controlled space. They targeted supply lines, communication hubs, and fuel stations. They no longer fought just to survive. They fought to spread fear. Every destroyed ship carried a message. Every ambush told the galaxy the same story. Humans were no longer prey. One famous mission came when a small human team disguised themselves as slaves on an alien transport ship. They waited in silence until the vessel entered the heart of enemy territory. Then, using stolen weapons, they turned the ship against its masters. The explosion lit the sky over an alien outpost, and the story of that attack spread like wildfire. The hunters grew restless. They began to see humans everywhere. Shadows became enemies. Empty signals became traps. Their fleets moved slower. Their soldiers looked over their shoulders. The prey had placed fear into the hunter's heart. Captain Elias understood this change better than anyone. He told his fighters, "Every battle is not just about killing their ships. It is about killing their certainty." They thought they could not lose. Now they know they can. And once a hunter knows fear, he is no longer a hunter. He is just another animal fighting to survive. But victory came with a cost. Many humans died in each mission. Camps were destroyed when discovered. Entire families were lost. The path of resistance was covered in blood. Yet even in death, humans found strength. Each loss became fuel for vengeance. Each sacrifice became a reason to keep fighting. The galaxy watched with silence. Other species, who had once ignored humanity, began to notice them. Some pitied them. Some admired them. And some began to fear them too. For a truth was spreading. Humans were unlike any other prey. They were something new, something dangerous, something unpredictable in hidden bases. The survivors sharpened their weapons and whispered the same line again and again. "If they hunt us, we hunt them." The aliens could not escape that whisper. It followed them across battlefields, across destroyed convoys, across the blackness of space. It haunted them. And in that haunting, the balance of power shifted. The hunters had made one mistake. They had taught humanity how to fight like prey. And now the prey had become something else. Something the galaxy had never seen before. The war had spread across the stars. Everywhere the hunters went, they now moved with caution. Once they had walked with pride, certain of their power, certain that humans could never fight back. But the days of certainty were gone. Fear now followed them like a shadow. The humans had become a nightmare to their enemies. They struck in places where no one expected. They used wreckage as weapons, storms as cover, and silence as their shield. Every ambush, every trap, every victory told the galaxy the same story the prey had learned to hunt. But the war was far from over. The hunters still had vast fleets, countless soldiers, and weapons that could destroy worlds. Humanity was small, scattered, and bleeding. Survival alone would not be enough. To truly turn the tables, they had to strike at the heart of the enemy. Captain Elias knew this truth. In a hidden base on a broken moon, he stood before his fighters. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with fire. "They have chased us. They have hunted us. They have taken our homes. But today, we take the fight to them. Not just to survive, but to show them what it means to fear us." The plan was desperate. It was impossible. But it was all they had. The humans would launch a direct assault on the alien homeworld. not to conquer it, but to send a message that would never be forgotten. The journey was long and dangerous. Stolen ships carried small strike teams across enemy territory. Many never made it. Patrols hunted them, traps awaited them, but still the survivors pushed forward. Every death, every loss, fueled the fire in the hearts of those who remained. At last, they reached the alien homeworld. It was a giant world of steel and fire, surrounded by rings of warships and defense towers. To most, it looked impossible. But to the humans, it looked like the perfect place to show the galaxy who they truly were. The battle began with silence. A single human ship drifted into the system, broadcasting a fake distress signal. The aliens rushed in, ready to capture it. But as they closed in, the trap was revealed. Hidden among the planet's rings, human strike teams attacked from every side. Explosions lit the skies. Alien fleets scrambled to respond. In the chaos, Captain Elias and his team broke through the defenses. They targeted the heart of the planet, the main command hub. Every second was a fight for survival. Human ships were torn apart. Soldiers fell one by one. But the survivors pushed forward with relentless determination. The final strike came when Elias himself led the charge into the command center. The aliens expected him to beg for mercy. Instead, he looked them in the eyes and said, "You thought we were prey. You thought we would run. But you were wrong. We are hunters." The humans unleashed their last weapon, a massive explosion that shook the core of the alien hub. The command systems collapsed, and the homeworld fell into chaos. The hunters screamed in confusion as their control over the war shattered. The humans did not conquer the planet. They did not stay. They had no need to. Their mission was complete. They had shown the galaxy the truth. The hunted had become predators across the stars. Other species who had once ignored humanity now spoke their name with respect and with fear. The hunters had tried to break them, but instead they had awakened something far more dangerous. The war was not over. Battles still waited. More blood would be shed. But the galaxy would never again see humans as prey. They had proven their nature. They had proven their spirit. And they had proven one lesson that every hunter must never forget. Never hunt the children of Earth. Because when humans fight back, they become the hunters.